Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week, you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. We're heading out to Iowa, to the home of the Giants. Yes, everybody knows Iowa has some giant bucks. Well, Nate Keeney is going to tell us all about how a young man who's working on a farm. No, he doesn't own it, but he's working 2,000 acres, and that's his job. And so he's able to have a couple of honey holes on that land. Plus, he's got some other honey holes through his joining up with Extreme Element Outdoors. And those guys are putting together a great team in central Iowa, and you'll be hearing more from them. I've got Chris Enright coming up next week on the show, and he's going to talk about Extreme Element Outdoors. But back to Nate. Nate's just a gung-ho young man that loves hunting whitetails. If he isn't working, he's sleeping or hunting whitetails. Well, he's eating too. And by the way, Saturday coming up on the 9th, he's going to get married. So shout out to Nate. I know the show will be published later on, but hey, Nate, hope your wedding went great. So having said that, Nate Keeney is going to bring some keys to why he's a successful hunter. 1, scent control. 2, stand placement. And 3, he always watches the wind. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your I Got a Cold, Bruce Hutchin, your host. And we're heading out to Iowa, and we're going to connect with Nate Keeney. Now, Nate is part of Extreme Element Outdoors, but he's also a food plot guru. So this ought to be one heck of a show, folks. Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, I don't know where I want to start. I know you left school and were going to be a natural resource management. What was that all about, and why didn't it work out? If you can share that.
Yeah, well, left hometown DeWitt thinking, need bigger, better things. So got started on the path of natural resources management, did my associate's degree at Hawkeye Community College in Waterloo, left there and went to Upper Iowa University in Fayette, Iowa, and pursued that natural resources all the way out to get my bachelor's degree. And it comes down to I found out the hard way that it's a very popular job, it seems like, and once people are in that field of being a conservation officer or a fisheries biologist or anything on that line, that it seems like them people stay in that job for a long time because it's something that they love and love to do every day. So it's very hard to get your foot in the door and have the experience that they want when you come out of college. You only can work as a summer seasonal because you got school all other times, but that all led me to where I am today with farming down in southeast Iowa. The farm I work for personally does about 600 acres, along with a grandfather and a uncle that have quite a bit more. That all tallies up to about 2,000 acres total. And then we raise turkeys on the side of all that for Subway, Costco, all them big box companies.
So is this part of your family's land, or you're just hired out?
I'm a hired man.
And 2,000 acres, man, that's a lot of dirt. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of dirt.
It's year long, spring, fall. It's just it's a busy time all year round.
Yeah, and then you throw in the turkeys, which you got to harvest, for Thanksgiving. Let's say that's the big play, and they got turkey breast in those stores the whole year. So, wow, you're a busy guy.
Yeah, and to put a number on, we raise a little less than 300,000 birds a year.
Oh my goodness.
It's a big number.
Yeah, but just that alone is a huge job. Even though if you have conveyors and you have everything automated up to snuff, that's still a heck of a job.
Yeah, it all is. We're not as automated as the chicken industry, but the turkey industry is pretty much we have a lot of automation with our like lights and our we have curtains on the side of the barns that go up and down due to temperature, and otherwise everything else is done by our own hands. So it keeps us busy.
Well, how the heck do you get out and chase whitetails? Sounds like you could be
That's when
24 hours a day.
yeah, it's 50 plus hours a week, and but I use I would say 90% of my vacation comes end of October through the month of November, and sometimes even through December. That's when I'll try to juggle chores for the turkeys, harvest, and doing all that, and then plus time of taking to myself so I can get to the stand.
Yeah, because that prime rut time is it's kind of sort of right along right before Thanksgiving time. So
Yep.
how does that work?
Yeah. Then throw in all the holidays in there. So it's kind of I pick and choose, and normally if I hunt a morning, then I'll work through the day and through the night, and then if I hunt a night, I'll go to work earlier in the morning, and then I'm back to the stand at 1 o'clock, and hoping that it all works out into my favor that night or morning that I'm out there.
Now, do they let you hunt their farm, or you have to find your own land?
I have one track of their parcel. I have that locked up for myself, and then I have another 160 acres just 5 minutes out my front door to I can be at on another guy's property. That kind of his property's kind of been my honey hole here the last 4 years since I've moved down here.
Now, are you married or?
We get married this Saturday,
Oh, that's right.
believe it or not.
Excuse me for forgetting that, folks. I apologize. Nate did tell me he was getting married, and I said, "You're going to do my show before you get married." He goes, "Yeah." So, props to you and congrats, man. That's a wonderful. That's a it's a wonderful thing for a gazillion type of people. So your life's going to change. But my wife still lets me hunt, and that's been for years and years and years. So that shouldn't change too much.
No, it should be great. She's an avid outdoors woman. You can say she's really has taken to late muzzleloader here in Iowa. She's done a great job here these last 4 years. By she's been kind of I would say baby steps. We haven't really got to the big bucks yet, but she's definitely filled the freezer with all the does that she's harvested during those late seasons down here.
Well, that's great. I know, coming from Colorado, it's like every 4 years you can draw a tag. And it's hard. But when I was at the Des Moines Whitetail Deer Classic last fall, not last fall, last winter, it's just the size of deer that are coming out of Iowa are phenomenal, and they can go up against anybody. And
Right.
there just seems to be a lot more of them now. Wisconsin, where I hunt extensively in the fall. We've got a lot of big deer, and I'm going to hunt Buffalo County, and that has 200-inch deer. I'm not going to say in every section, but there's a lot of those. You won't see them, but they're still, they're still there. But take Iowa. Iowa's got it going on. Why do you think that is?
I just think it's the abundance of row crop is definitely the biggest part for I would say income and other things around the state. So they're definitely well fed, but yet there's plenty of areas that I'm sure there are some areas in Iowa that some people may have never have stepped foot on. So they got places to hide, and they've definitely adapted to how Iowa's changed over the last 50, 100, 200 years. They've really they somehow still us guys that are avid outdoorsmen, and we eat, sleep, and breathe deer hunting, that they still outsmart us every year somehow.
Why is that, Nate? I mean, I'm not that bad of a deer hunter. No, I am not the best deer hunter in the forest. I got a buddy that is pretty good, and he says it just gets harder and harder in Iowa to get those big bucks. And he's taken some, substantial deer, but
Mm-hmm.
there's hundreds of guys, thousands of guys like me that go out and they'll, get a 130, 140, 150 deer, and it'll be a great season, and rightfully so. But then there's some guys that just, they're always looking at that 180. They're looking, at that
Yeah.
200-inch buck. Why is that?
Oh, I just think part of it is one, you got to have a little bit of luck on your side, but some of them guys that are doing that repeatedly also have I would say, a substantial deer quality management going on too. I mean, it could all just be luck, and they got one heck of a gene pool. But I'm thinking a lot. I mean, these guys that I mean, just 10 miles south of me is Lee and Tiffany Lakowski, and they do that just year after year after year. And just from what I've read and what I've watched on the TV episodes, that they know deer management 101 just to a T, and they're doing a great job of it. And I know a lot of people will look at them and they really don't like them, but they're doing some great things down there from what I've seen and read.
Yeah, and what's not to like? I mean, there's a couple of kids that grew up in the whitetail thing, figuring it out, and making it happen. I mean,
Yeah, they're living. They got the dream right there.
yeah, and sometimes I think some of those people look at them and they take their excuses away, if you will. And I'm not trying to start a fight on Whitetail Rendezvous today, but sometimes you might just tip your hat and say hell of a job and go on your way because no, everybody can't have the same thing. But as far as Lee and Tiffany, as far as I know, nobody gave them nothing. I mean,
No, they started really from their book and everything, that which is really good read, that from day one it's kind of like, well, hey, let's move to Iowa. And they started where everybody starts at, right? I mean, unless the ground is inherited, which none of theirs was. It's all been started from the ground up, and it's become one heck of a I would say journey for them, that's for sure.
yeah, and props to them. So let's get back to
Yeah.
you. So there we are. We're farming, 24/7, just about. You must have gone home, take a shower, go to sleep, eat, get up, and go to work again. Is that a typical day of the
Right.
week?
That's a typical day, Sunday to Sunday, pretty much.
Oh, right. But they had to give you some time off if you wanted to go to church, you wanted to go get groceries, get a haircut. I mean,
Yep, I normally do haircuts over lunch hour, and I'll do. We'll do a lot of our grocery shopping. Oh, some days get off at 4:30, some days 5:30. Normally go get that done, come home, unpack it all, go back to bed, and start the day over fresh.
yeah. And folks, this is reality. And if all the farmers out there that listen to the show, I talk about real people in real places. That's why we're kind of hovering around Nate's work ethic. But that's what he does. I mean, and that's when you're running that many acres, that's what you got to do to stay up on it. And beyond that, though, one, he's going to get married on Saturday, and two, he's connected with a couple of good friends of mine at Extreme Element Outdoors. How did that ever happen?
That was just one thing where I got to talking to Emmett and his dad Chris there, and it came down to I had the same passion they did, and it was so easy to talk to them. That was one thing, because it's kind of like talking here on the show, that when you're talking about hunting, fishing, the outdoors, you could sit down and talk about it for days on end, and you don't get tired of it because it's something that you love, and the person you're talking to uh, loves it just as much as you. And then after all those conversations with those two, it led to becoming a pro staffer for them and getting to know them and some of the guys that are from Pennsylvania and some of the other guys that are from here in Iowa. And now that they've Chris and Emmett and them have, we call it the headquarters down in Van Buren County. It's kind of like our place to meet up, and we got some food plots established this year, and they're working on getting everything ready for deer season. So it's kind of like we bounce ideas off everybody, and we go from there, and hopefully everybody's successful this year.
No, where's their headquarters? Is it down in Van Buren or is it up north? Or
Yeah, it's down in Van Buren County, so just roughly around the town of Keosauqua.
no, that's where
I
Chris is
mean,
from, or Emmett, or they both live
uh,
there.
no, they both of them are living up in Ames, so it's probably a 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive for them down to. They just built a beautiful place down there, weekends down there.
Yeah, because when I had Emmett on, I thought he was hunting north of Des Moines, around the Ames area. So I wanted to make sure I was talking out of the right side of my mouth. And so
Yep,
what is? Go ahead.
property up there. He's got property up there that he hunts with him still in school at Ames, so he's juggling both spots. But I know where he really wants to be. He wants to be down here.
So talk to us about Extreme Element Outdoors. What is it? Why does it exist? And where's it going?
Oh, so it's all started with I know Emmett and Chris having the dream, and then being able to kind of show everybody that just your normal American guy or woman working 40 plus hours a week is still able to make that time for a weekend in the outdoors of deer hunting, turkey hunting, any kind of hunting that happens here in Iowa. And they wanted to show that, we all still can do it. And there's so many more opportunities that other people can. So that's what we're trying to portray with our videos, with our blogs, that everything that's now being uploaded. The website for Extreme Element Outdoors is finally up and going, and it's just it's flourishing and it looks good. And hopefully, that with all this, that we're able to show people that you can still work full time job and still be able to get out there and hopefully put some big deer on the ground and be, I mean, just as happy as everybody else that does it for a full time job.
So let's talk about that. You're saying everybody's working. Well, most all of us work. I mean, so what's the big
Right.
deal about Extreme Element? Where's the juice, or where's the special magic about it?
I let's I just think bringing the group that we have together, and hopefully it reaches out to a whole lot of other people, that if we're still able to, in the long run, do what some of the people that do it for a full time job, we're still able to get to that same level as them, but we're not able to, put 200 hours in a stand a year. But we're every chance that we get when we're not at work or we have time off, that we're in the stand, we're showing people exactly, not exactly how it's done, but a way that we would do it to hopefully put you in the right spot at the right time when that 180s class walks by.
All right. Now let's talk about hunting that Mr. Wonderful, as I call them, and that Mr. Wonderful is any buck over 150. How do you go about hunting him year in
Uh,
and year out?
that's a challenge I'm still trying to perfect down here on my one property. That they just come and go as they please, and it's just I still hope that one day that I get in the stand, I got that little bit of luck on my side. But the last 4 years, I mean, actually 3 years, hasn't played out to my advantage. But I know they're still there. It's it's you can pattern him all you want, and then the one day that to you he's supposed to be at that spot at that time, but then he never shows. Creating the food plots for him to hopefully hold him there, year in and year out, and hopefully figure out where the bedroom is and where their feeding is, and somehow you can intercept them somewhere between there. But all that goes into, just time in the woods. The more time you spend in the woods, the better off your opportunity is going to be.
Now, do you have cameras on your plots, or your not your food plots? You could have it on your food plots, but the places that you hunt.
Yeah. So I'm running about, let's say, a total between down here and back home, about 12 trail cameras total.
Now, how do you check them?
I normally go in by truck 95% of the time. Otherwise, it's on four wheeler, but it's normally middle of the day, noon, on my lunch hour down here, and my dad and grandpa take care of the ones back home. And it's normally once every, right now through like June, July, August, September, we're about once every 2 weeks. After that, most times our stands are somewhere in that vicinity, so we'll pull cards on our way to stands or our way out.
And what are these pictures tell us? Because right now, on any given day, there's millions, not thousands or hundreds of thousands. There's literally millions of camera photos being made available. And I talked to one guy today. He's got over 10,000 when he pulls the cards, all his cards. He's got a lot of cameras, but over
Yeah.
10,000 photos. I mean, how do you look at that? How do you catalog it? How do you make any sense of it?
That's right now. I mean, they're in their summer pattern, which is, that's fine. But once October, end of October, everything goes to the wind. So I'll sit down at my laptop with my pile of cards, and I'll go through, and I got different folders for each individual buck, showing me, as long as nine, most times I can ID them and be like, well, he's from last year, he's from 2 years ago, and I just compile a inventory of photos, and that gives me date, time, temperature, moon phase, and I go off of that, and hopefully over years of pictures or even continuous pictures throughout just a year, you can somehow come up with a database of, all right, well, he's hitting over here at 2:30, and then he's showing up on this camera over here at 4 o'clock. So somehow be able to compile a home range, I'd like to call it, just what he's going. Hopefully, figure out coming from bedding to food sources back to bedding. Hopefully, there's a continual where he shows his face at each site, and hopefully over time that's when you can feel confident of patterning a deer. But each day is different, and they could do something completely different and throw you for a loop.
And I just truly marvel at all this data that we have.
Yeah.
Me included, because up on the farm that we hunt, I mean they're pulling the farmer, pulls the cards because he hunts with us. So
Yep.
off the tractor and stuff, it's no big deal. In some of the places we don't. But having said that, I look at all this information in like you said, you got folders and you're trying to build a hit list, and then all of a sudden, Mr. Wonderful shows up and you've never seen that deer. What is that? Why does that happen?
Oh, the ghost bucks get you every year. I just think that you get those ones that move on from a different area and they show up, and they blow your mind. You like, I haven't seen him whatsoever, and all of a sudden he becomes top of your list, and it's like, oh, so what brought him to this area? Is it something that maybe I've done with food plots, or is it just because a hot doe brought him in, or there's just so many different variables that go into it that it just they there's always going to be a couple every year that blow your mind, and you just hope that it's maybe something on that property is what brought him there and will hold him, and hopefully you get that opportunity. And yeah, them ghost bucks, I call them, they they get to me every year.
And I was hunting with Judd Cooney and Sherry Yarbrough at Iowa Trophy Whitetail Outfitters, and the deer that they took, the biggest deer of the week, they had never seen, flat, never
Mm,
seen this deer, and they're running
mm,
5,000, leased acres, had never seen them, and the deer just walked right into this food plot, and the guy shot him at 80 yards. It was like,
mm.
oh my goodness, and he was a 196. You know,
That's a stud.
well, yeah, it was a stud, and everybody else at camp is going, okay. But
Yeah.
the thing is,
Yeah.
it's a great deer, and clap for the
Yeah.
guy that got it. But the biggest thing that I was amazed, they never had seen the deer ever, and they've been out
Right.
there for a long time. You think somebody that was going to be a comer like that, they'd go, oh man, let him grow another year, let him grow another year, let him grow another year.
Right.
They never had that, and I'd like to hear from the listeners. Why do you think these, as Nate says, these ghost deer show up? Because he wasn't going to get his butt kicked. I mean, he was
Right. He was
kicking.
gonna be the one kicking.
He was going to be the one kicking. So he's in his core area and everything's hunky dory. Then he travels X and shows up, and end of story. I mean, he just walked into that food plot and the guy just sat there and said, "Come on, come on, come on," and he finally just dropped him at 80 yards.
That's a prime, a prime way of just talking about how these deer, they get old and they get smart, and if no one's seen him before that day, that's hats off to that guy for not being ever seen.
Yeah, and the guy that took him is a very good hunter. Obviously, he didn't hit the panic button. He just said, "Okay, let's see where how this goes." And the deer walked into him. But nonetheless, folks, what we're saying is, you can do everything right. You can have all the cameras. You can do everything right, the food plots and everything. But if those deer aren't going to be there, they're not going to be there, or all of a sudden a deer shows up you've never seen. And that's what makes whitetail hunting to me, it's such a chess match. So it's so much fun because you never know what you're going to see. So one, you got to put your time in, and two, you've got to hunt prepared. Your thoughts, Nate?
Yeah, it's deer hunting. I always compare, bow hunting versus, shotgun hunting. I think bow hunting is probably one of the biggest adrenaline rushes I've ever had in my life, and that's what keeps me going back year after year after year. Even though I may not kill one every year, but it's my my drive to be out there and do it is all driven by that adrenaline and the camaraderie between family, friends, and just people that have been in it. That's a big driving factor.
Let's talk about custom food plots. You're not the only guy in the United States that are doing this custom food plots. Because a lot of guys like me, I've never been a farmer. I've sat on a tractor, and that's about it. So if I was going to build a food plot, or plant one, I'd have to go to somebody like you and say, I don't know anything. I got a couple bucks, so we can get the tools. But that's where I'm all done. So what do custom food plots really do for people?
Oh, it creates a, I would say, a permanent food source that we can, keep established on a property, and uh, comes down to, are you looking at hunting it for bow season, or strictly, maybe you got a younger daughter that's in youth season and you want to make sure that you get her first deer. So it all depends what your out what you want your outcome to be. So it all comes down to late season, muzzleloader shotgun, or you want it for bow season, or you want food plots established for each one of those seasons. That's where it comes on my part, is asking all the questions of, so you look at an aerial map of a property, and they want this 2 acre plot over here on this side of the property, and you kind of get a background of, all right, so they want, because they've seen these deer over here, and maybe there's adjoining properties that don't have any food sources other than the crop fields that farmers have around, and but you want something that's going to draw them to your property once those crops are picked. Hopefully, it'll just make your odds in the end game a little bit higher for that. Say if you're just doing doe management for does to appear, or if you're wanting to get that 180 class out in the open, hopefully that is something that we have thought about and got it in the plans to make. So you want late season, so you want to go deer radishes and turnips with sugar beets in there, or you can go all different kind of ways. It just all kind of what the customer is really wanting.
So if a guy comes up, I come up to you and say, "Hey, I've got you know um, 5 places on my land. I want a food plots." Do you go to an aerial map? Do you go to Google Earth, or you just go and walk the dirt?
Most times I'll pull up an aerial map myself, Google Maps, or Google Earth that way, and then I'll want to walk the property with the property owner or guy that's leasing it, and then I can get a sense of lay of the land for one, and and then kind of get a personal view of just watching the guy talk about it, kind of, his feelings about it, and then we can talk, like what kind of products are out there now, and what, like the early season, late season, get all that talk out of the way, and then we can kind of sit down and hash out, 'cause I'm not going to make the full decision. I like them to be, 50-50 in on everything, and kind of figure out, maybe they've done some research and they'd like to try this, and maybe I've tried it, but he really wants to, but we'll tackle it that way, and then somehow then we'll get everything implemented throughout. If you plant it in the spring, then we got to have everything ready pretty early on. If it's a fall plot, you're getting everything ready throughout the summer, and hopefully getting it planted that last of July through August, and at the latest that first week of September, and hopefully we can get everything implemented at the right time so that it's just in perfect condition for when them seasons come around for them.
Now, when you do the custom food plot, do you actually do the work? You bring in and you turn it over and you put the
Yep, most
fertilizer
stuff
down?
I'll. Yep, most time it's all I'll haul everything with my truck and trailer, and it may be multiple trips, but we'll get it done one way or the other. Most times it's stuff that I've brought in, or maybe I have the tractor, he's got the disc, so we'll do it that route. Or most of the planning stuff, I bring that all myself. Just I don't expect someone to go out who's just starting food plots and go buy a drill or go buy a woods interseeder or something like that. That would be awesome, but the equipment is what gets a lot of people. That's what really where the big money comes into the picture.
Yeah, because I would agree because so many guys want to get into this and then realize what they've got to do, all the tools they have to have, and then all of a sudden the seed is very cheap when you throw in the labor and the tools. Um, it can be daunting.
Yeah, that's what I'm thankful for the family that I work for. I don't have the money to buy the equipment, and they have the equipment just from over the last 30 years of being a farming family, that they let me borrow the tractors and the equipment and everything, and they allow me to do that on the side, and just have fun with it. And all I have to do is ask them, and 98% of the time we're not using that piece of equipment, so I'm able to go get things done when they need to be done.
No, who's your favorite seed company? If you have one, if you don't, that's okay too.
Right now we've had really good success with running Whitetail Institute. That's where we've partnered up with them, and their seed is just this year being. It's not my first year planning it, but being the first year with Extreme Element Outdoors, it's definitely hasn't let me down, and it's something I'll keep planning until the day that I'm done hunting, because it's a product that I've always had 100% success rate with it, germinating and coming up and being the best for what I'm using it for. It's definitely, uh, they have gone above and beyond with their products.
Sounds good to me. While we're on shout outs, why don't you take some time and give some shout outs and then we're going to call it a show.
Sounds great.
So do you have other people you want to give shout outs to, Nate?
Yeah, we're partnered. So Extreme Element Outdoors, number one. Thanks for letting me be a part of everything and getting getting it all rolling off the ball. And like Easton Arrows, number one. Their products, just love Full Metal Jacket. That whole family, that part of the archery industry, and getting that stuff all off the ground. And Wasp Archery, that's one, the broadhead that we use. It's a bone crushing machine, and that's never let me down, and I'll never leave that company. And with that and Lone Wolf Tree Stands being nice, easy, ready to they're ready to hunt all the time, and sim- simply set up, and they're ready to hunt from the time they come to your door to the time you get a hung in the stand. They're ready to go.
Well, with that, uh, thank you so much for the thousands of my listeners are going to hear this story and go, man, that sounds like, as you said, you're living the American dream. So hats off to you, Nate, and congratulations again on your wedding coming up on Saturday.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. Thanks for having me on the show, and hope to do it again here in the future.
You take care.
Yep, you too. Thanks, Bruce.
Staying right here in Colorado, and we're going to meet up with Stephanie View. And Stephanie is a lady that decided she wanted to know where her meat came from. That's right, she was a vegan, and she said, what's this whole story? And so she started hunting, and people on Facebook and Instagram and other social media channels helped the young lady to find out, here's what hunting is and here's what it isn't. And she got along with Steve Walls from Shield Mountain, and Steve and his crew out there were really instrumental in helping her understand uh, the ins and outs of hunting. And so she took to the woods this fall, and no, she didn't harvest anything, but she learned some lessons. And one thing about Stephanie, she's bagged, as they say out in Colorado, 19 of the 14ers. So I would say she's in pretty good shape, and she's got a drive and a passion that she wants to learn how to hunt. And a lot of people have stepped up and said, "Hey, we'll help you along the way." So sit back, relax, and enjoy Stephanie.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.